The World Trade Organization, or WTO, came into existence in 1995 to deal with the global rules of trade between nations. The WTO is supposed to provide a forum for governments to negotiate trade agreements and settle their trade disputes with one another. Member nations must adhere to WTO policies without going through any legislative process in their own countries. Local policies aimed at rewarding companies that hire local residents, use domestic products, or adopt environmentally sound practices can and have been deemed illegal by the WTO. Furthermore, the WTO has shown itself to be indifferent to workers' rights, child labor, and environmental protection. For example, many corporations are assaulting environmental regulations as barriers to free trade in order to force member nations to change their domestic laws. The WTO considers these matters to be not worthy of deeper consideration and outside of its purview. This is a system that has helped to deindustrialize the United States, ship our jobs overseas, and substantially lower our standard of living. By August 2007, the United States had been a defendant in 47 WTO cases and had lost 40 of them. The United States was required by the WTO to change its own domestic laws, particularly allowing things such as environmentally unfriendly fishing standards. The goal of the WTO is to promote world trade, and while world trade has increased 15-fold since 1960, it has hardly been beneficial to the United States in the past 2 decades. According to the Economic Policy Institute, since China entered the WTO in 2001, the U.S. has lost nearly 3 million jobs to its so-called trade partner. 2.3 million of these jobs were lost from 2001 to 2007, before the recession that is still crippling the United States. During that same period, annual worker earnings decreased by $1,400. In the WTO, every nation has an equal vote, meaning that a nation like Grenada has as much say on world trade as the United States. The WTO seeks consensus in its decisions, meaning that minor economies have a major say on policy. Some countries often band together to block policies which they find unsuitable for their own benefits. The WTO also holds all of its meetings in closed sessions. Simple requests for information are frequently denied. WTO judges are selected by committee and are not reviewed by the legislative bodies of member nations. The American people deserve transparency when faced with a supra-governmental organization that has a say on our domestic and international legal issues. There is an appeal process for disputes within the WTO, but it is also closed to the public. No appeal exists outside of the WTO, and there is no non-party arbitration. This system of international trade is not working for the United States. We need to take an emergency timeout on such trade pacts. The WTO has a clearly established process for doing just that. When a nation has a massive trade imbalance, as the United States clearly does, it submits a paper to the WTO stating the reason for its timeout and what it plans to do to rectify the situation during this time. The WTO and International Monetary Fund, or IMF, then consult with one another. This takes no longer than 60 days. After the consultations are completed, a timeout may be taken to forestall and reverse serious declines in monetary revenues and economic conditions. This is the case in the United States. The United States joined the WTO in 1995 via executive agreement, requiring only simple majorities of Congress to approve the decision, instead of the usual 2/3 majority required to approve international treaties. Because of this, either Congress or the President can initiate this timeout process. Either the President or Congress could also end the United States WTO membership with just a 6-month notice. Doing so would allow the United States to address its massive trade and budget deficits and then re-enter the international arena once again.